Hello, my name's Michael Conneely and I'm telling you a bit about my novel Rune Magic. And Rune Magic tells of a time as Ragnarok, the doom of the Norse gods, approaches, and how Odin takes up a young man and a young woman because he believes that in some way those two can avert the destruction of the beautiful Aesir gods and ensure their perpetuation. And so they have been taken up from Earth into Middle-earth as the time of Ragnarok, the doom of the gods, approaches. And Odin knew all along that Ragnarok was coming because it had been prophesied. And he raised a seeress from her grave barrow to hear the details. He spent so much effort trying to avert the prophecy. But Fimbul winter has started, the 3 years winter has started that people know will precede Ragnarok. Can he rely on the young man and the young woman to carry forward the beauty of the gods? Several moons later, they were all awakened by the sounding of a horn. They staggered out of the cave mouth in time to see, in shock, immense pursuing wolves close on the sun. Hati, Skoll and Managarm. The wolves got by Loki on the foul hag giantess Angerbrodda, and diligently fed by her for centuries for this very purpose, fed on the marrow of murderers' bones, hidden away in the groves of Yarnvid. The 4 of them stood and stared upwards, speechless and stunned, overcome as the gap between the wolves and the staggering sun steadily narrowed. Horrified, they saw the wolves finally catch up, first with Sunna the sun, and swallow her whole. Her blood cascaded from their hideous jaws and drenched the earth. Then the mighty, distant notes of the horn sounded for a second time. The notes were pure and summoning. At this moment the cliff face cracked. The pool emptied with a drunken, gurgling roar. The sky went black. The moon became visible in the sudden darkness caused by the death of Sunna. Then the ravening evil of the wolves turned after the moon. He continued forward in his orbit, but he was far too slow. He was swallowed up in his turn by the monstrous brood of Loki and Angerbrodda. His blood cascaded silvery from the closing teeth of the wolves, and it too showered the earth. Gusts of hail and snow now came on them, from all 4 directions. Now the only light to see by was the ceaseless lightning crashing across the ink-black skies, and the strange, sick, eerie red flaring, growing immensity of red light coming up from the south. Muspelheim, Declan murmured, pointing to the light. The tragic purity of the horn sounded again for the 3rd time. "It is the Gjallarhorn," cried Magda. She was the first to realise what it was, so stunned they had been to watch the horror of the destruction of the luminaries. Magda was the first to actually break from the horrified trance which the tragedy of the sun and moon had drawn them all into. "Heimdall has sounded the Gjallarhorn," Magda said urgently. "The forces of chaos are invading Asgard." "Magda, sound your own ram's horn," said Declan, shaking himself out of his reverie. When they had been taken up to Midgard, Odin had given them a ram's horn to be used only in the direst of need. "We must call on the dragon you scried when we first met. Use the horn. He will take us to Mimir's grove. The 9 worlds are ending. They're finished. They're ending fast by the look of it. But what about my mum and dad? Frithia cried out loud. My brothers and sisters. Mum, I'm coming for you, he cried. He scrambled madly down the disintegrating cliff face and fought off Declan's attempts to hold him back. Brosny joined Declan and they fought Frithia. Declan held his arms and Brosny held his legs, and Frithia eventually gave up struggling to find his family. He gave way to sobs instead. The trees outside the cave crashed down, the roof cracked, and they only just made it back up to the ledge to drag their weapons out and their gear to safety. Sound your ram's horn, Magda, Declan said urgently, clambering out of the cave, dragging their packs and weapons to the ledge as the roof fell in. Call the dragon. He drew the ram's horn from Magda's pack carefully, unwrapped it and passed it to her. I've never blown a horn before, said Magda. I do hope it works. What dragon, Brosny asked? You never told us about this, Declan, another of your secrets. I was oath-bound, Declan told him briefly. Magda put the ram's horn to her lips and blew. A piercing, screaming, rasping, unlovely note rang high and long. But it seemed it might have worked. The veil at the far side of the emptied pool suddenly dropped away, and the four of them suddenly saw the three aged Norns revealed, standing silent now, the Orlog ruined, their chant destroyed, their runes lying strewn in chaos on the ground, the web in tatters. Declan, Magda, Brosny and Frithia stood there and stared at the Norns, appalled. We must dress again in the clothes the High One gave us, Magda said. Somehow she knew they had to do that. The ravens are telling me, she explained. Again Declan shook his head to clear his mind and dragged his eyes away from the tragic prospect of the Norns. The two of them hurried into the barbaric magnificence, the clothing that Odin had provided for them. Two I agreed to carry and no more. The four of them looked up startled. Above the din in the raging gale and the thundering roar, a white-winged horror and pale immensity of the dragon now hovered on mile-wide pinions above the remnants of the pool. The Galahorn sounded again from the fourth time in far-off Asgard, its purity even more urgent and poignant than before. They saw the Valkyries stream across the sky. The ravens, Hugin and Munin, whispered in Declan's ear, I see a hall standing on the shore of death, sunless Nastrond far from the sun. Declan spoke to complete these words he had never heard before. It was as if another was speaking through him. It was like he was possessed. And its doors face north, venom drops fall from its roof, and serpent spines entwine its walls. Then cried Declan in a great voice to the hovering dragon, I shall not come with you unless you take all of us. You have no power to disobey me. You are Odin's sworn. You must take us all to Mimir's grove. Declan's vision widened. The swirling images he saw were superimposed on the surrounding landscape and becoming stronger. Declan's head shook and he shouted the dragon again. Would you delay to honour your Odin oath at this time and make the Orlog falter and the roots of the new world's time perish? It is foreordained, you have no choice. You know it. You are sworn. You must accept my condition. Carry us all to Mimir's grove, or I shall curse you by your true name. And you will perish with all the 9 worlds. And you will not live to see the coming cycle. Take us all now. We must be off. with a roar of rage or forced obedience or hideous excitement, or all three, the spectral, pallid dragon snatched the four of them up in its dreadful claws, packs weapons and all, and bore them with a sickening swoop aloft, and headed away, flying towards Asgard and the field of Vigrid, where battle lines were forming for the tragic final battle. And beyond them lay Mimir's grove. Mimir's grove, apart from it all. The grove of mystic Mimir, awaiting Lith and Lithrasir, the prophesied parents of the new race. Thank you.